Iconic American propaganda has long been a powerful force in shaping public opinion, leaving a lasting legacy across generations. Before the age of social media, these campaigns needed an effective strategy to gain widespread traction. Here are the top 13 most iconic American symbols, slogans, and sound bites that have shaped the story we know today. Number 1. Uncle Sam's "I Want You" poster. The story of Uncle Sam starts in 1916, when the world was watching World War I and the United States was still deciding whether to join. James Montgomery Flagg, an artist, created the famous "I Want You" poster for Leslie's Illustrated Weekly magazine. Flagg was nervous about meeting his magazine deadline and did not have a model, so he looked in the mirror and used his own face for Uncle Sam. He was inspired by a British poster called "Britain Needs You" from 1914, but Flagg made it his own. The poster showed Uncle Sam pointing at the viewer, telling men it was time to fight. Later, when the U.S. joined the war on April 6, 1917, the government used the poster to recruit soldiers. Between 1917 and 1918, over 4 million copies were printed. The poster became an iconic image of American patriotism and showed how powerful visual advertising could be even in the early 20th century. Number 2. Rosie the Riveter. Next came Rosie the Riveter during World War II, starting in 1942. The U.S. needed millions of workers as men left for the battlefields. President Roosevelt asked the government to run a campaign to get women into factories and shipyards. J. Howard Miller painted the famous "We Can Do It" poster for Westinghouse Electric. It encouraged women to work, boosting morale and production. The woman in the poster is believed to be Naomi Parker Fraley or Geraldine Doyle, though the exact identity is still debated. The name Rosie the Riveter came from a popular song in 1943 that celebrated women helping win the war. The poster and song made Rosie a symbol of women's strength and capability. By 1945, nearly 1 in 4 married women worked outside the home. After the war, women were pushed out of these jobs, but Rosie's spirit helped inspire the women's rights movement in the 1970s and beyond, showing that women could do any work that men could do. Number 3. Buy War Bonds campaign. During the same war, the U.S. government also used posters to raise money for the military. The Buy War Bonds campaign ran from 1942 to 1945. Posters showed leaders like General Eisenhower over soldiers in action, urging people to buy bonds for $25. Americans were encouraged to pledge at least 10% of their earnings toward the purchase of war bonds, which could be redeemed for $25 after 10 years. The Office of War Information coordinated the campaign, using radio, posters, and advertising to promote patriotism, warn about spies, and recruit workers. Volunteers went door to door to sell bonds. By the end of the war, 85 million Americans had bought $185.7 billion worth of war bonds. These campaigns showed how government messages could unite a nation for a cause. Number 4. Benjamin Franklin's political cartoon, Join or Die. The oldest of these propaganda pieces is Benjamin Franklin's Join or Die cartoon from 1754. It was made during the French and Indian War to show that the American colonies needed to unite. The cartoon shows a snake cut into pieces, each labeled with a colony, warning that if they stayed divided, they could fail. Franklin was inspired by a French engraving from 1685. Later, during the American Revolution, colonists reused the image to protest British control. In 1774, Paul Revere updated it in the colonial newspaper, the Massachusetts Spy. In 1775, the Gadsden flag with inscription, "Don't tread on me," was another concept of the rattlesnake symbolizing unity against British oppression. The cartoon became a symbol of unity and resistance, used later during the Civil War by both sides. Its simple message made it powerful and memorable for generations. Number 5. Why We Fight information films. Why We Fight began in 1942 after the U.S. entered World War II. President Franklin Roosevelt wanted soldiers to understand why they were fighting, so he asked filmmaker Frank Capra, an Academy Award winner, to create 7 films. The series used real footage, enemy propaganda, and Disney animation to clearly explain the war. William Hornbeck edited most films, and some scenes were recreated when footage was unavailable. Narration came from Walter Houston and others, with music by the Army Air Force Orchestra. Capra used Axis propaganda, like Germany's Triumph of the Will, to show the enemy's plans and the threat to democracy. Each film had a clear purpose. Prelude to War explained Nazi propaganda, while War Comes to America showed the dangers of an Axis victory. The series justified aid to the Soviet Union, but left out some negative actions. Combining sight, sound, and smart editing, the films created a strong us versus them story. They are now preserved in the National Film Registry. Number 6. Remember Pearl Harbor posters. After the Japanese attack on December 7, 1941, America was in shock. Posters, pins, badges, and other items appeared everywhere with the slogan, "Remember Pearl Harbor," or RPH. The government used these items to remind Americans why they were at war. Matchbooks, postcards, and decorative stamps, called Cinderellas, were spread across homes, offices, and public places. Jewelry and pins were also made to honor the memory of those lost and to encourage buying defense bonds. Posters showed burning ships, enemy soldiers, and messages to keep fighting. Some showed the American flag at half-mast with captions urging revenge. Even newspapers, sheet music, and telegrams were used to spread the RPH message. These items united people and kept the memory of Pearl Harbor alive while motivating citizens to support the war. Number 7. Freedom's posters. In 1943, Norman Rockwell painted the 4 freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. These paintings were inspired by President Roosevelt's 1941 speech on essential human rights. Rockwell used local people as models and made the images look real and familiar. The paintings were published in the Saturday Evening Post and used in a traveling exhibition. The posters and essays raised over $132 million in war bonds. The U.S. government printed 4 million posters, encouraging citizens to buy bonds and support the troops. Each painting carried messages like, "Buy war bonds," or "Ours to fight for," making the values tangible and personal. Rockwell's work became iconic and connected Americans to the cause of freedom. January 6, 1941.
No realistic American can expect from a dictator's peace, international generosity, or return of true independence, or world disarmament, or freedom of expression, or freedom of religion, or even good business. Freedom means the supremacy of human rights everywhere. Our support goes to those who struggle to gain those rights and keep them. Our strength is our unity of purpose. To that high concept, there can be no end save victory.
Number 8. Loose lips sink ships. The phrase "loose lips might sink ships" came from the War Advertising Council in 1941. Artist Seymour R. Goff, known as SRG, created the poster for the Office of War Information. It warned that careless talk could be overheard by spies and hurt the war effort. The poster shows a half-sunken ship, showing the danger of sharing secrets. Similar campaigns existed in other countries, like Britain's "Careless Talk Costs Lives" and Sweden's "Ensvensk Tiger." The campaign reminded both soldiers and citizens to be careful with information. It became a symbol of responsibility and unity, teaching everyone that words could be as dangerous as weapons in wartime. Number 9. Women in the War, posters, 1942. During World War II, the U.S. needed workers for factories and offices because more than 16 million men served to fight overseas. Posters showing women in uniforms or factory clothes reminded everyone that women were essential to winning the war. The most famous image was Rosie the Riveter, with the slogan, "We can do it." Building on themes from World War I, these messages encourage women to support the war through buying war bonds, food and supplies rationing, fundraising and morale-boosting campaigns, and even joining the military itself. The posters sent a clear message. America could not win without every man, woman, and child. They helped millions of women feel proud of their contribution and united the country towards a common goal. Number 10. Victory Gardens posters. Victory Gardens posters encouraged Americans to grow their own food to help the war effort. The posters showed families planting vegetables together, smiling and working as a team. J. Howard Miller, who also designed Rosie the Riveter, created these posters. The program started in 1941 to reduce pressure on farms and supply fresh vegetables for soldiers. By 1944, 18.5 million Americans participated, providing 40% of fresh vegetables. Gardening improved health, built community, and made people feel part of the war effort. It was a way for civilians to contribute directly, showing that every small action mattered for victory. Number 11. Pyramid of the capitalist system. During the Progressive Era, as workers fought for better wages, hours, and rights, one powerful image was born: the pyramid of the capitalist system. First seen in The Industrial Worker, this bold cartoon became a voice for revolutionary industrial unionism, shining a light on the fight for fair treatment and fair pay. Showing society as a pyramid, workers at the bottom support everyone above them. The top includes rulers, rich business people, and clergy. The image was inspired by a Russian version from 1901. It shows inequality and social class struggles, reminding viewers that workers keep the system running. If the workers stop supporting it, the pyramid could fall. The pyramid of capitalist system was more than just a picture. It was a call to action to change the system. Which piece of American propaganda surprised you the most? Comment below, hit subscribe, and join us as we uncover more powerful stories from history